Welcome to Books on Air, the podcast that tells the story behind the book. Here's your host for this episode of Books on Air, Suzanne Harris.
Welcome to Books on Air. I'm Suzanne Harris, and it's such a pleasure to have you with me today. Books on Air is a series where we really do a deep dive into the author's passion. We talk about why did they write their book? We find out what their writing process is like, and we give them the opportunity to let you know what they want you to take away from their book. You really get a peek behind the curtain, if you will. Joining me today is someone I cannot wait to introduce you to. She feels like someone I have known for a very long time. Her name is Holly Brough, and she's here to talk about her wonderful historical novel, The Name I Choose. Holly, welcome to Books on Air. Such a pleasure.
Thank you, Suzanne. It's great to be with you. I feel very, very lucky. Thank you.
You and I have had trouble starting this interview because we just kept talking and talking and talking and talking. We have so much in common. It's just been interesting. The thing that I always think is a fascinating find for people who are watching or listening to us is that they might not have thought about books this way. They always have two stories. There's the story that you chose to tell them in The Name I Choose. But then there's always a backstory. There's always a reason and a way that the book came into being. And most of the time, people don't know what it is. And most of the time, nobody tells them. So I know you have a really interesting backstory. Tell me that backstory.
Well, the inspiration for this book happened when I was driving on the freeway. And I had this scene play out in my head that it just came out of nowhere, but it was extremely disturbing, but also intriguing. And I couldn't get it out of my head. So I couldn't forget it. So I just felt like maybe I needed to look into it further. So I came home, I got online and I started researching time periods, places, cultures, people's family history. And I decided that in order to really tell the story of how this person became who they are, I would have to go back 2 generations. So the book, The Name I Choose, begins in the prologue with his grandmother. Then the bulk of the book is about his mother, his birth, and the first 3 or 4 years of his life. The next book will be about him primarily. And then the last book is about his daughter. And we really have to go through 2 whole novels and 3 generations to get to the happy ending, because it's very real to life. It's full of tragedy, but it's all the feels. You got love and companionship, and then you have deception and intrigue and even murder. So, it kind of covers the whole gamut, really. But that's what life is, right? We have ups and downs and roller coasters, and so that's what this is, a roller coaster ride for sure.
Have you written in the past? The thing about you that I think is so interesting as well is that you told me a story about being dyslexic, and I was shocked when you were telling me that story because your writing style, your prose is beautiful. And everything flows so well. And I was so surprised when you talked about being dyslexic. Tell our audience that story.
When I was in elementary school, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I struggled with, I would flip-flop words or letters, had a hard time deciphering between B's and D's and that kind of thing. So I had to go to a special class every day, and kind of hated it because it set me apart from all the other children. And it was hard to I had problems with comprehension and those kind of things. So when I was a teenager, I was taking religious classes, and my religious teacher told me that if I read the scriptures every day, I would overcome my dyslexia. And I took him at his word. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And he said that God would help me. So I started reading the scriptures every single day. And of course, I didn't understand what I was reading, but I was reading it. And eventually, as time went on, I gained an understanding of God's word, and I overcame my disability, per se. So, yeah.
I think you did more than overcome. I mean, this book is really, really, it's multi-leveled. Your characters are well developed. And I'm just stunned that you've not written before, because it just sounds like an author that has written before. Let's give our audience an overview of what the book is about.
Okay, so it really is like a movie playing in my head. And excuse me, I am a very visual person. So being able to see the places, feel the feels, understand the characters has been a real gift for me. It only took me 9 months to write the book, which ended up being about 550 pages. And you know, that's a lot of information, a lot of detail that people nowadays don't want. But it was really kind of writing a screenplay for this movie that's in my head. But it is about a young girl who doesn't know her origin, doesn't understand where she comes from, especially when she's sold into servitude by her father, who she believed to be her champion in this kind of horrible life she's had to live for 15 years. So when she's 15, she's sent to an abusive master's household to be a servant. And she doesn't realize that she's more of a slave than a servant until about a month later, when she isn't getting any paychecks. She's not getting paid. Everybody else is getting paid on Saturday morning. They get their paychecks, and she waits and she listens, and again, doesn't get her paycheck. So she goes to the housekeeper and says, "Can you tell me why this is happening?" And she said, "Well, I've wondered the same thing, and I've asked, and I understand that your family got a large parcel of land and a big home, and so you've been paid for."
Wow.
And she's like, "Wait a minute, I'm doing the work and I'm not going to get paid at all." And she said, "Nope, I'm sorry, you're at the mercy of the Tudós. You're here forever." And well, that was a real blow for her, because she's miserable in this household. So
And she goes
anyway,
on lots and lots and lots of adventures in this book.
She does. She falls in love with the Duke of Cadiz, who's supposed to be the future king of Spain. And he seduces her with yummy foods, which is something that she loves. She loves food. She's a chef herself, because she's been cooking for her family for 8 years. And and he's also a food connoisseur. So that's something that they had in common. And he would bring her these delicious treats to taste and whatever. But they had a short love affair, and then he left her pregnant and wanting. And so she needed to protect herself from her master and protect this unborn child. And so she fled. And that's actually a part of the story that I wanted to read today.
Okay.
Was after she flees.
Super. Go ahead.
Kind of her experience. Would you like me to do that now?
Yeah, that's great.
So as instructed, Amalia stuck to the trees, keeping in their shadows on the outskirts of Aguilas. But the trees spread farther and farther apart as houses clustered closer together, and the thought of Abuela peering down at Amalia from the second floor of her home and knowing someone else could be doing the same thing frightened her. Once she entered town, the streets narrowed and visibility beyond the next bend became impossible. Horror struck her when she came face to face with herself at the end of an alley. Reward for information about this woman, who goes by the name of Amalia Maritimo. Dark hair, green eyes, short in stature and slender. Last seen wearing the uniform of a housemaid, she is in the possession of precious emerald jewelry belonging to the Tudo family. Report any information to the civil guard. Amalia's heart pounded. Her feet felt numb. She rushed through the streets, catching only brief glimpses of the next turn. Coming to a high wall and nowhere to go, Amalia turned, praying no one would stop her. Few people looked up from their conversations, and she kept her eyes averted. Peeking over her shoulder to make sure no one was following her, she took a left and barreled into something solid but soft. She yelped in surprise. Strong hands set her right. She made eye contact with a short, stout man, possibly in his late 20s, dressed in military uniform, his soft brown eyes wide with surprise. Not a moment later, a taller gentleman appeared at her side, taking her elbow and turning her so her back faced the open plaza and any curious bystanders. Out in the harbor sat the most beautiful ship she'd ever imagined. He wrapped his cape around her shoulders. "Be gentle, Hastings," the shorter gentleman said in English. "I was very gentle. You help her then." The taller officer walked a short distance away, but his hawk-like eyes canvassed the area. They wore English Royal Navy uniforms, complete with navy tails and gold tassels on their shoulders. Could these officers be the ones I overheard on the road to Agulhas, or the ones Abuela told me about? Uncertain why the handsome officer abruptly walked away, Amalia flashed her prettiest smile at the other gentleman and spoke slowly in Spanish. "Pardon me, is this your ship?" She prayed he understood her. He removed his hat and replied in near-perfect Spanish, "Buenos tardes, señorita. Allow me to introduce us. I am Commander Gilbert Channing, and this is Captain Joshua Hastings. We are at your service." The commander lowered over her hand and kissed it. Captain Joshua Hastings. The captain quickly glanced at Amalia, then looked away. "Hastings?" He rolled his eyes and mustered a stiff bow. "Buenos tardes." Amalia's face brightened when she recognized his voice. As a result, Captain Hastings' mouth fell open, and she had to cover her own to hide a laugh at his reaction. He adjusted his broad shoulders, and her eyes followed their taper down to a narrow waist accentuated by an ornate belt. His crisp uniform emphasized his muscular frame, making Amalia's commitment to stay away from men teeter dangerously. His impeccable physique was as mesmerizing to her as her smile seemed to be to him. "And you are?" Commander Channing said. Pulling her eyes away from the captain, she replied, "Oh, si, pardon me. I am, I apologize. I was distracted. My name is Leah Tavio." A lopsided smile and raised eyebrows revealed Captain Hastings' amusement at her stutter. "Do they notice my blunder?" "You are in luck, Señorita Tavio. This is our ship," Commander Channing said. "I would like to purchase a ticket, por favor. When will you be casting off?" she said, a little too eagerly. "Our ship is leaving in a few hours, but we don't often ferry civilians when delivering cargo and supplies. However," Channing looked at Hastings, who gave him a slight nod, "I believe we can make an exception from this one time for a nominal fee." Amalia felt some nausea settling in. "Señorita, are you well?" Trying to act confident, her voice squeaked, "What is the price?" "You haven't asked where the ship is going," Captain Hastings said. Taken aback by Captain Joshua Hastings' perfect Spanish, as if it were his native tongue, Amalia stared at his polished teeth as his lips glided over them. She forgot to respond. "Oh dear, what was the question?" There was a chuckle from the commander. "Oh, where is it going?" Amalia quickly asked. Nerves on edge, she tried desperately not to look around for the civil guard. With one man in front of her and the other nearly behind her, they kept her hidden from suspicious eyes, but she felt anxiety at not being on the ship yet.
Oh, I love it. You make me want to know what happened. And that's exactly what you wanted to do, wasn't it?
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to get to the part where Captain Hastings pulls Channing aside and says, "I think she's the one on the bulletin, and I think that she is Tudó's victim. We need to help her." So
I love it. See, your writing is just terrific. And you said something earlier that I think is important for the audience to think about. You talked about seeing the action in your head. That's a creative brain. I can't tell you the number of fiction writers that I interview, and that's what they talk about. You're either a pantser or you're an outliner. If you're an outliner, then you sit down and you write down every action and you know exactly what's going to happen next. If you're a pantser, seat of the pantser writer, I am too. You sit down and it's like the movie starts in your head. People who don't visualize that way don't quite understand exactly how that process works. It's almost magical. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It is magical. That's why this adventure has been so great. And I love reading this. I mean, it's kind of funny that I like reading my own book, but I totally enjoy it because, first of all, I can't believe that that came out of me. But I also know that it was not all me. I believe that God put this story in my head, and that's why I have it. But yeah, it's been kind of an amazing journey, very magical journey.
Let's talk about the book itself for a moment. Let's talk about both the front cover and the back cover. Now, tell me about the front cover. What does it look like?
Well, the front cover is Amalia, and they kind of darkened the background, but she is in a castle, in the ruins of a castle. And that is where she meets the future King of Spain in the Lorca Castle. And I have to tell you, the book was done and it was at the publisher and they were doing the copy edit and getting things ready. And my husband took us to Spain for our 25th anniversary. Now, I've never been to Spain, so all of this book was written by doing research online. And so he took me to all of the places that no tourist would go just to see the places that are in my book. And it was pretty funny because they are small places that are just out of the way and not significant at all. But I was thrilled to find out that my research was correct, except for the Lorca Castle, the fortress. I didn't have it on a hill. So when we went to visit the Lorca Castle, it was on this big hill. And Amalia makes a trip to this fortress every day for a month. So I had to rework how she got to the castle every day during siesta. So that was the one thing. And the great thing about it too is that because we visited it, I had an idea of the landscape. I was able to make sure I could actually put detail in about the fortress itself. It had frescoes on the walls, and the stairs were narrow, and there were places that you could hide, and it was just a really cool experience to go through that and see that. But then I could illustrate that a little bit better for my reader in the book. But then I was able to paint it.
Oh, well, the painting over your right shoulder is a painting of that castle. Am I right? Is that what it is?
It is. It is. And of course, I took most of the modern, buildings and whatever out of it so that it looks more like it did at the time of the book in the 1800s. But yeah, so my publisher was really excited about this watercolor, and for free, they put it on the back of my book so that people can see it and kind of get an idea of the terrain of the Lorca Castle and the beauty of all the flowers and everything. Because Cisco, the Duke of Cadiz, he would always give her a bouquet of wildflowers every time he saw her. And so the flowers are in the painting, and just the vegetation, everything. It was a really beautiful place.
I can really hear how much you love your work in your voice and the way that as you're talking about this, I could just feel you almost caressing the words and caressing the book and sharing your adventures with us, because you made me go right with you to Spain when you were talking about that castle. Our audience has got to be hooked by now, Holly. They've got copy of this book. So let's tell them where they can find it. Now, the name of it is The Name I Choose, Choose, by Holly Brough, Brough. It's on Amazon, but Holly, I know it's in some other places as well. Tell me where else the audience could find it.
They can get it off of my website, which is hollybrough-TNIC, the name I choose, TNIC.com. And it's anywhere. You can order it anywhere online from anywhere that sells books. Walmart, Barnes and Noble, especially exlibris.com, which is my publisher. So,
what else is on the website? Is there a bio about you? Is there other information there about you?
There's a bio. There's a little bit of a backstory about the book itself, and I think there are a few reviews and whatnot. I've received 8 awards for this book, which I'm very proud about. And so those, and some reviews are also, professional reviews are also on the website. So they should get a good feel of what they've got in store for them.
Now, you're also a watercolorist. I want our audience to look at the background and see some of your work. You painted the picture of the castle. You did the painting. What do you call a watercolor? You did a watercolor of the castle.
Right, a watercolor painting. Yes.
So where can we see your watercolor work?
Most of my watercolor work can be found on Instagram at Brough-art. And also on Facebook, I post my art. And usually people, if they're interested in a piece, they will DM me. And I can give them information. I usually frame all of my watercolors, so they would get a finished piece of work. But there are some times when I haven't had a chance to frame it yet, and somebody really, really likes it, so they'll just take it as it is. I also do prints and cards and things like that, and it's really fun to share my art with others. I love God's creations, and most of my art is landscapes and things.
Well, you are such a multi-talented person.
Thank you.
It's just so much fun to talk to you. I know you and I can just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, because we have. Our viewers, our audience will become readers. They will pick up a copy of this book. It's well worth it. I mean, it's a wonderful adventure. But there's a little more to this book than that. What do you want the audience, when they become readers, and for the very last time, this is a book they'll just sit down and they'll just start and they won't want to stop. But they may stop and think about some of the things that are in there, because this is about a male-dominated society. This is about a woman who is resilient and who goes through all kinds of adventures that are not necessarily positive. All kinds of things happen to her. What do you want that reader, when they, for the very last time, close that back cover, they've read the last page, and they sit back and they think about the name I choose? What do you want them to take away? What are the themes?
Thank you for asking that. A lot of people who write fiction don't have a platform. But in my case, I have a very strong feelings about names and labels. We live in a society where labels seem to be very important. And if someone is given a label, then that's who they are, and they can't move from that spot, and where they are denying their true selves. Or, you give someone a nickname, and it might be a downgrade and like a degrading name, or there are just so many things that people think that names define who they are. And that's exactly what Amalia feels. She feels like her name defines her. Amalia means hard work, labor. Leah, tired. Leah means tired. And Leah Tavio, the tired eighth. She's one of 8 children. So that's why she named or chose that second name. The third name she chooses, she wants to mean solace or peace. She really wants to get to that point where she is happy with her life. And up to this point, she doesn't feel like she can be who she wants to be. She's constantly pulled down, and she has to find a way to rise above it. And there's even one part in the book where she is threatened to share her bedroom with lonely strangers at night. And she's like, I'm not going to give my child a whore for a mother. I'm not going to do that. And they threatened to send him to a workhouse. Well, she's not going to lose her child either. So she's formulated a plan. She said, well, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it my way. And they said, we don't care. As long as you get the job done, we don't care. So she devises this plan. She goes out behind the tavern. They have poppies out there. I had to do research on how to make opium. But so she went out behind the tavern, found poppies, and scored the bulbs, and then the pus or the pulp or whatever. The next day she would go out and scrape the pulp off of the buds and put it in a tin. And after she had collected quite a bit, she made her own recipe of opium. Now, this is something she learned when she was a young girl. Her mother taught her so that she could lace the tea when her mother was having another baby. They had so many babies that, Amalia was assisting with these deliveries, and she would lace her tea with opium to help with the pain. So this is what she did with these lonely travelers. She would spike their tea or whatever when they came to her room. She would massage their feet and give them shoulder massages, and they would be so relaxed and it feels so good, and they fall asleep. And when they woke up, they had no idea really what had happened, but they felt good. They were satisfied, and they left none the wiser, and she didn't have to compromise herself. So that's kind of how Amalia is. She's very resourceful. I believe that women can be strong where they stand. They can make a difference and have a voice where they stand. They don't have to step into someone else's shoes to accomplish those goals. And names, I believe, are limiting. They keep us from becoming who we're meant to become. And I believe that we're here in this life, on this earth, at this time, to learn and grow and become more than we see ourselves today. And I believe that the only name, the only label that we can claim that is limitless and lasting, everyone can claim it, is child of God. And if we truly embrace that, then we know that our potential is limitless and it is lasting. It is a forever thing. We can continue to grow and become who we want to become. We can become the best of ourselves if we actually understand who we are at the core. The other thing, we know who we are when by our actions when no one else is looking. So if we think about that, what am I doing when no one else is looking? That's who I am. And do I like that person? If I don't, I know that I can improve. I can change. I can become, because I'm a child of God. So that's the message really from this book. And she has an opportunity to embrace that. It's very difficult for her because of the past that she's had. But there is a savior in this story. And he's the one that shows her the way, helps her understand and know that, you aren't what you do. You are who you are inside. That butterfly that wants to come out of its cocoon.
Holly, I can't tell you what an absolute pleasure it's been to have you as my guest today on Books on Air. You are extraordinary.
Thank you.
Your book is a wonderful read. It's just been so much fun and such a pleasure. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. Thank you. You're wonderful. You look wonderful today, too, by the way.
You're very kind. Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today here on Books on Air. It's just been such a pleasure to see you. You can hear this podcast not only on the Web Talk Radio platform, but you can also hear it on Apple, on Spotify, and on iHeartRadio. Until we see you the next time, keep on reading. Keep on telling your own stories. And just keep on keeping on. We'll look for you next time, and it will be another fun interview because you never know what we're going to talk about. Thanks again for being with us.